AITA for coming home with a folder after my wife said her boyfriend was moving in. I'm Robert, 43, and by the time Lauren made that call, I had been her husband long enough to know the difference between a bad mood and a rehearsed goodbye. For months, I told myself our marriage had just gone quiet. We still bought the same coffee, still argued about which cabinet the measuring cups belonged in, and still stood side by side at the sink like two people who knew the choreography but forgot the song. I thought we were drifting. I didn't realize she had already picked a shore and was trying to strand me on the wrong side of it. Lauren was 39, polished in that way people get when they're trying to look calm instead of actually being calm. She had always been private, but over the last few months, private had become secretive. Her phone started living face down. Her password changed. She smiled at messages in the kitchen, then turned the screen away the second I walked in. When I asked, she would sigh like I had interrupted a meditation retreat. You take everything so seriously, Robert. I'm asking who made you laugh, I said once, standing by the stove while pasta water boiled over because neither of us moved to turn it down. A friend, she said. What friend? The kind I don't have to report to you. That was how our conversations went by the end. Nothing loud. Nothing that would make a neighbor look over the fence. Just small cuts, delivered with a tired smile, followed by her walking into another room with her phone tucked in her back pocket. At first, I blamed myself more than I blamed her. Maybe I had gotten boring. Maybe we had become one of those couples who knew how to run a household, but forgot how to be married. We still ate dinner together most nights, but it felt like eating next to a coworker during a bad team retreat. She would scroll. I would ask about her day. She would give me a sentence and then ask if I had seen the mortgage statement yet, or if I knew where the title paperwork was, or what happened if one person wanted to stay in the house after a divorce. The first time she asked that, she did it while spreading cream cheese on a bagel. I looked up from my coffee. Is that something we need to talk about? She gave a small laugh. It was just a question. I read something online. What exactly did you read? God, Robert. This is what I mean. A normal person can ask a question without you turning it into a deposition. So I let it go, not because it felt right, but because I was exhausted from being made to feel suspicious every time I noticed something strange. Then the garage keypad changed. I came home one evening with groceries in both hands and punched in the code I had used for years. Nothing. I tried again. Still nothing. I stood there in the drizzle with a paper bag softening against my chest until Lauren opened the door from inside. Did you change the garage code? I asked. She looked over my shoulder at the keypad like it had betrayed her. Oh, I reset it by mistake. How do you reset it by mistake? I was trying to fix the light timing. The keypad doesn't control the light timing. She blinked once. Why are you making it weird? That line became her favorite escape hatch. Why are you making it weird? Why are you being intense? Why can't you just trust me? The truth was, I wanted to trust her so badly that I kept negotiating with obvious facts. Then came the calendar notification. We shared a calendar for ordinary things, dentist appointments, insurance renewals, dinner with her mother, stuff like that. One afternoon, while I was putting clean towels away, my phone buzzed with a reminder for a reservation I didn't recognize. It had Lauren's name attached to it, but she had told me she was spending that evening helping Diane, her mom, sort through old boxes. I stared at the reminder for a long time, not because a reservation proved anything by itself, but because my body reacted before my brain let me make excuses. There are moments when your stomach knows the answer before your mind has permission to say it. That night, Lauren came home smelling like unfamiliar cologne under her perfume. How's your mom? I asked. She didn't look up while taking off her earrings. Tired. You know how she gets. Find anything interesting in the boxes? She paused just long enough. Old photos, she said. Some holiday stuff. I nodded and said nothing else. After she went to sleep, I sat at the kitchen table with only the light over the stove on and opened the security camera history on my laptop. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I would check 1 or 2 clips, feel stupid, and close it. Instead, I saw Adrian. I knew him vaguely. He wasn't a stranger from some dramatic movie scene. He was the kind of man who had hovered at the edges of Lauren's life for months under convenient labels. A friend from an old circle. Someone who understood what she was going through. Someone who commented on her vague social media posts with things like, "Proud of you for choosing peace." The camera showed him walking up our driveway with a duffel bag while I was out. Lauren opened the door before he even knocked. He leaned in, kissed her, and walked inside like he had done it before. I watched the clip 3 times. Not because I needed more proof. Because some stupid part of me hoped the 4th second would change. It didn't. The man kissed my wife at my door and carried a bag into my house. My first instinct was to wake her up. I wanted to throw the bedroom light on, hold the laptop in front of her face, and demand she explain how long I had been sharing my marriage with a man who knew my garage code before I did. Instead, I called Owen. Owen wasn't my brother by blood, but he had been close enough for long enough that the difference never mattered much. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice rough from sleep. "Someone better be dead," he mumbled. "My marriage might be." He woke up fast. I told him what I found. Not all of it. I could barely get the words out. I remember gripping the edge of the kitchen counter so hard my fingertips ached. When I finished, Owen was quiet for a few seconds. Then he said, "Do not go upstairs. I have to talk to her." "No, you want to explode at her. That's different. She brought him into my house. I heard you. And if you storm in there, she gets a scene. She gets you yelling. She gets to tell everyone you scared her. Don't give her a scene. Give her a paper trail." I hated that advice because it was right. So I didn't wake her up. I started a folder. At first, it was just digital. Screenshots, dates, camera clips saved to a separate drive. Notes about conversations that suddenly looked different in hindsight. Then I printed things because paper felt harder to ignore. I labeled tabs in an old blue folder. Messages, house, finances, camera, family chat. I didn't confront Lauren. I stopped asking questions out loud and started writing down answers. Once I stopped trying to protect my feelings, the pattern became ugly fast. Lauren's "choosing yourself" posts always went up after Adrian had been at the house. She had asked about mortgage payoff numbers 2 days after searching for escrow contacts. She had asked if I still had copies of old property documents the week after Adrian spent an hour in our garage while I was out buying a new sink part. I found messages because Lauren got careless. Not through some spy fantasy. She had logged into her email on the home laptop months earlier and never fully signed out. A notification preview popped up while I was checking the printer settings. The subject line was boring enough that I almost ignored it. Then I saw Adrian's name. I didn't read everything at once. I read enough to understand that this wasn't just an affair wrapped in self-help language. Lauren was planning the landing before she ever told me the plane was going down. One message from Adrian said, "If he feels embarrassed enough, he'll leave. Guys like him don't want a public fight." Lauren wrote back, "He won't fight. He hates looking messy. He'll be useful until the paperwork is done." I sat there in the office chair while the printer hummed beside me, staring at that one sentence. Useful until the paperwork is done. That was the moment grief changed shape. I was still hurt. I was still angry. But underneath it, something colder settled in. She wasn't just leaving me. She was trying to use the version of me that loved her as a tool to remove me from my own life. I booked a meeting with an attorney the next morning. I didn't walk in looking for a magic trick. I knew divorce was complicated. I knew marriage creates financial questions, and I knew no folder was going to make the pain clean. But I needed to know what was real and what Lauren was inventing. I brought mortgage statements, property records, old financial documents, and the separate property acknowledgement we had signed years earlier after a family matter forced us to organize everything. I also brought the messages about Adrian's boxes, the garage code, and the plan to pressure me out. The attorney read quietly, making little notes with a pen. Finally, she looked up and said, "In your situation, she can file for divorce. She can make claims. You'll both have to disclose finances properly. But she cannot unilaterally rewrite the property reality by moving someone's boxes into the garage." I exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. "She told me she could make me leave," I said. "She can tell you anything she wants. That doesn't make it legally true. What about changing the keypad? That needs to be addressed carefully. Don't retaliate. Don't lock her out. Don't throw anything away. Keep documenting. Keep communication written. We'll send a letter setting boundaries." That became my rule. No chaos. No dramatic revenge. No illegal nonsense that would feel good for 5 minutes and cost me later. Owen said the same thing when I called him after the meeting. "The goal is not to win the driveway," he said. "The goal is to survive the divorce." I almost laughed because that sounded like something he had practiced. "You reading fortune cookies now?" I asked. "No, I'm reading your future if you act stupid. So I kept quiet. Lauren mistook that silence for weakness. 2 days later, I had to be away for a few days to handle something I couldn't postpone. Lauren knew when I was leaving and when I was coming back. She kissed my cheek before I left, which she hadn't done in weeks. It felt staged even then. Travel safe, she said. I looked at her for a second longer than usual. You too. Her eyes flickered. The call came the second night. I was sitting on the edge of a hotel bed with a paper cup of coffee that tasted like cardboard. My phone rang with Lauren's name. For one stupid second, I thought maybe she was going to confess. Maybe guilt had finally gotten heavier than whatever fantasy Adrian was selling her. I answered. Robert, she said, using that soft, steady voice people use when they have rehearsed in a mirror. We need to talk. Okay. I want a divorce. I looked at the wall. There was a framed print of a beach above the desk. The ocean in it looked fake. I see, I said. She waited for more. When I didn't give it to her, she continued. I know this hurts, but I'm finally choosing happiness. I've been lonely for a long time, and I think you know that. I closed my eyes. No, I said. I know you've been lying for a long time. That's different. Her voice sharpened. I'm not doing this with you. I'm not going to let you twist this into me being the villain. Who is Adrian to you? The silence told me she had expected that question, but not that soon. He's someone who has been there for me. At my house. Our house, she snapped. Then she caught herself. Actually, that's part of why I'm calling. Adrian has started moving some things into the garage. Just a few boxes. I don't want drama when you come back. My hand went still around the coffee cup. You moved your boyfriend's belongings into the garage while I was away. Don't say it like that. How would you like me to say it? Like an adult. Like someone who understands that this marriage has been over emotionally for a long time. There it was. The soft language. The polished version. The one where betrayal became bravery if she used enough therapy words. Then she said, you can stay in a hotel when you get back. I'm not fighting with you in my house. I felt something hot and mean climb up my throat. I swallowed it. Okay, I said. She sounded almost disappointed. Okay. Keep everything exactly how it is until I get there. Robert, don't make this ugly. You already moved him in, Lauren. Don't move anything else. I ended the call before she could hear my breathing change. Then I saved the call log, took screenshots of her follow-up texts, and set my phone on the bed beside me. The first text arrived less than a minute later. Lauren, I know you're angry, but this is happening. Then another. Lauren, please respect the transition. Adrian is not the enemy. Then another. Lauren, I told Mom everything, so don't try to scare me when you come back. I stared at that last one. Of course she had told Diane. Not everything. Her version of everything. Within 20 minutes, the family group chat lit up. It was a thread I rarely posted in, mostly for birthday pictures, recipes, complaints about gas prices, and Diane sending blurry photos of flowers. Lauren posted first. Lauren, Robert knows. He took it better than expected. Please respect my new chapter. Diane replied almost immediately. Diane, we love you, honey. Stay strong. A cousin named Claire wrote, Robert, please be civil. This is hard for everyone. Then Diane messaged me privately. Lauren says she has been lonely for years. Please do not punish her for being honest. Sometimes choosing happiness hurts people, but that does not make it wrong. I read the message while standing barefoot on hotel carpet that looked clean only because the lighting was bad. I typed 3 different responses and deleted all of them. Then I remembered Owen. If she wants to lie in public, answer with proof, not rage. So I didn't answer Diane. Not yet. The next morning, I received a bank alert while brushing my teeth. An attempted transfer from the joint account, large enough that I rinsed my mouth too fast and got toothpaste on my shirt. I opened the app, checked the details, then forwarded the alert to my attorney. I followed the instructions I had been given. I documented. I didn't retaliate. I didn't drain the account. I didn't send Lauren the message I wanted to send, which involved several words my grandmother would have hated. That alert was the moment I stopped seeing the situation as heartbreak and started seeing it as damage control. Lauren sent more texts throughout the day. Lauren, I need you to be mature about the house. Lauren, it doesn't make sense for both of us to be there. Lauren, Adrian is only helping me feel safe. I replied once. Robert, do not remove, add, sell, discard, transfer, or alter anything connected to the house, joint finances, or property access before I return. Communication will be written from here. She sent back a laughing emoji. Lauren, wow, you sound like a lawyer now. I almost typed, not yet. Instead, I put the phone down. When I got home 2 days later, the first thing I noticed was my garage camera tilted slightly upward, like someone had tried to make it useless without understanding the other camera still covered the driveway. The second thing I noticed was Adrian's truck. It was parked too comfortably, not on the street, not half apologetic at the curb, right in the driveway, angled like he had been told he belonged there. I pulled in behind it and sat for a moment with both hands on the wheel. Through the windshield, I saw the garage door open. Boxes were stacked along the left wall, neat and labeled in black marker. Adrian. Kitchen. Clothes. Books. One box had a pair of men's boots on top of it. My boots still sat inside by the back door. Lauren came out first. She had dressed for the scene. Nice sweater, hair smooth, face composed. Adrian stood a few steps behind her in jeans and a t-shirt, arms crossed like a man waiting for a delivery driver to explain why the package was late. Lauren's expression was almost gentle until she saw the blue folder in my hand. Her smile died. I stepped out of the car and closed the door carefully. The camera above the garage had a small red light on. Recording. Good. I told you not to make this ugly, Lauren said. You already did, I said. I just brought the paperwork. Adrian gave a short laugh. Man, just be decent and let her move on. I looked at him for the first time. This is the only time I'm going to tell you to stay out of my marriage. He lifted his hands. I'm just saying, you lost. Don't make it sad. Something in me wanted to step closer. Not to hit him, just to make him understand there was a difference between being calm and being harmless. But I could see Lauren watching, waiting, hoping for a raised voice, a shove, anything she could use. So I smiled a little. You are standing next to boxes in a legal problem you don't understand, I said. His expression shifted, just enough. Lauren moved between us. Don't threaten him. I didn't. You're trying to intimidate us. I'm standing in my driveway with documents. If that feels intimidating, that's between you and your choices. She crossed her arms. Our marriage is over, Robert. You don't get to control me anymore. I'm not here to control you. I'm here to correct the record. Meaning what? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. The family group chat. Lauren had posted again. Lauren, he's here. He's being cold and threatening. Please pray for peace. I looked at the message, then looked at her. You're doing this while I'm standing in front of you? I asked. She lifted her chin. I want people to know what's happening. No, I said. You want people to know your version before they see mine. Her face changed. Robert. That was the first time she sounded unsure. I opened the folder and took out the first page. Not because I needed to read it. I knew every line by then. I'm going to send one message, I said. Then all communication goes through the proper channels. Don't you dare drag my family into this. I almost laughed. You already did. My hands were steady when I sent the file. I had prepared it the night before, titled exactly what it needed to be. The part Lauren forgot to mention. My message was short. Robert, since my name is being used in a story I never agreed to, here is the timeline. I will not argue in this chat. I will not be threatened out of my home. Future communication should be written. Then came the attachment. Not every private detail. Not every painful thing. I didn't send anything intimate or cruel for entertainment. But I sent enough. A dated timeline of Adrian entering the house while I was gone. Screenshots of Lauren calling me. Useful until the paperwork is done. Messages between her and Adrian about making me feel embarrassed enough to leave. The bank alert. Photos of the boxes in the garage. The changed keypad note. The attorney letter explaining that, in our situation, Lauren could not unilaterally decide I had to leave, could not install Adrian like a replacement owner, and that property and financial issues would be handled through proper disclosure and written communication. For about 30 seconds, nobody moved. The driveway was quiet except for a bird making an absurdly cheerful noise from somewhere across the street. Then Lauren's phone started buzzing. Once. Twice. Then nonstop. She looked down, and the color drained from her face. Diane, Lauren, call me now. Claire, wait. What is this? Diane, Lauren. Now. Lauren opened her mouth, closed it, then whispered, that is private. I nodded. So was my marriage. You had no right to send that. You had no right to make me the villain in a story you edited. Adrian shifted behind her. Lauren told me this was handled. I looked at him again. Clearly. He pointed at the folder. I'm not trying to get dragged into legal stuff. You moved your belongings into a married woman's home while her husband was away, after discussing how to pressure him out, I said. You dragged yourself. Lauren's phone rang. Diane's name filled the screen. Lauren rejected the call. It rang again. She rejected it again. On the third ring, I said, you should answer your mother. She was very concerned about honesty. Lauren glared at me, then answered, Mom, I can explain. I could hear Diane through the phone because Diane had never understood volume control when she was upset. Lauren, is this real? It's not that simple. It looks very simple from here. Mom, you don't understand what I've been going through. I understand that you let me defend you without telling me any of this. Lauren turned away, lowering her voice, but not enough. He was cold to me for years. Diane's voice cracked. Then you leave honestly. You don't move another man into the garage and tell your family your husband is punishing you for being brave. Adrian bent down and grabbed one of the smaller boxes. Lauren covered the phone. What are you doing? He looked at me, then at her. I'm not keeping my stuff here until this is sorted. You said you were with me. I am, but you told me this was handled. There it was. The great love story, wobbling under the weight of a folder. I didn't enjoy every second of it, but I enjoyed that second more than I want to admit. Lauren saw it on my face and hated me for it. You're enjoying this, she said. I'm enjoying not being the only person in the room who knows the truth. That's not the same thing. No, I said. It isn't. Adrian picked up another box. I stepped aside and pointed toward the driveway. You can leave through the same door you came in through. This conversation is not with you. He looked like he wanted to say something clever. Nothing came. He carried the box to his truck instead. Lauren watched him go with an expression I had never seen on her before. Not heartbreak. Calculation failing in real time. When Adrian came back for the second box, she snapped, Can you stop? He muttered, I'm not losing my stuff over this. I almost said how romantic. I didn't. Diane was still talking in Lauren's ear. Lauren kept saying, Mom, please, in smaller and smaller versions of the same voice. The family chat had gone mostly silent. A few relatives deleted their earlier messages. Claire wrote one private message to me. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't answer that either. I had spent months waiting for people to ask what was true before deciding what was easy to believe. Their apologies could wait. Lauren finally ended the call and stood in front of me with wet eyes. It was amazing how quickly the polished language disappeared when the audience changed. Can we just talk inside? She asked. No. Robert, please. 5 minutes without lawyers. You had months to talk to your husband. Now you can write to my attorney. Her mouth tightened. So that's it. You're just going to destroy me. I looked past her at the garage, at the boxes, at the boots, at the keypad she had changed, at the house I had walked into for years thinking it was a place where my life was safe. You didn't leave me, Lauren, I said. You tried to evict me from a life you were already lying about. She flinched, but I kept my voice even. This divorce will happen. The finances will be handled properly. The house will be handled properly. But you don't get to move him in, move me out, rewrite the story, and then call my resistance cruelty. For once, she had no polished answer. Adrian loaded the last of the boxes he was brave enough to claim and stood by his truck. Lauren, he said, I'll call you later. She turned on him. Seriously? He avoided looking at me. This is between you two. I said, that's the first accurate thing you've said today. He left without another word. The sound of his truck pulling away wasn't victory exactly. It was too ugly for that. It was the sound of a fantasy losing its soundtrack. Lauren stood in the driveway, arms wrapped around herself. I can't believe you humiliated me like that, she said. I slipped the folder under my arm. I can't believe you thought humiliation belonged only to me. She wiped at her cheek quickly, angry at the tear more than the reason for it. I loved him, she said. That one got through. Not because I believed it, but because once upon a time, those words had belonged to me. Maybe, I said. But you used me. She looked toward the house. Where am I supposed to go? That's something you should discuss with your attorney. You're kicking me out. No. And don't say I did. I'm not making decisions in the driveway. I'm saying no more unilateral changes. No more Adrian here. No more pretending I agreed to leave. We follow the process now. Her shoulders sank because process wasn't what she wanted. She wanted momentum. She wanted me embarrassed, Diane sympathetic, Adrian installed, and the story already moving too fast for anyone to slow it down. The folder slowed it down. Over the next week, the consequences were quieter than the driveway, but heavier. The attorney's letter went out. Communication moved to writing. Lauren was told clearly that Adrian was not to be brought into the property situation again. The financial records were preserved. The attempted transfer became part of the documentation. Any discussion about accounts, access, personal property, and the house went through the proper channel. The house didn't magically become mine alone that day. I want to be clear about that. Divorce is not a movie where one dramatic reveal makes everything simple. There were still disclosures, appointments, paperwork, and arguments over things that made me tired just reading them. But the house stopped being her stage. That mattered. Lauren tried to repair the family narrative for a while. She told Diane I had invaded her privacy. She told Claire I had saved things out of context. She told anyone who would listen that I was punishing her for having the courage to leave. The problem was that the context made her look worse, not better. Diane called me 3 days after the driveway confrontation. I almost didn't answer. When I did, she sounded older than usual. "Robert," she said, "I owe you an apology." I sat at the kitchen table, the same place I had watched the camera footage. "I appreciate that." She told me you had shut her out for years. She said you monitored her, controlled money, made her afraid to leave. I know what she said. I should have asked you. "Yes," I said. Not cruelly, just honestly. Diane was quiet. Then she said, "I asked her about Adrian. About the messages. She keeps saying it's not that simple." That seems to be her favorite sentence. I told her simple or not, she lied to me. I didn't know what to do with Diane's regret. Part of me wanted to be generous. Another part of me remembered reading her message telling me not to punish Lauren for being honest when Lauren hadn't been honest for a single minute. So I said, "I'm not asking you to take my side. I'm asking you not to help her lie about me." Diane's voice softened. "I won't." That was enough. Adrian disappeared from the house situation almost immediately. I heard later, through the kind of secondhand information nobody asks for but everybody receives, that he and Lauren had a major fight. Apparently, he accused her of misleading him about the property and finances. She accused him of abandoning her when things got hard. Maybe they deserved each other. Maybe they didn't. I stopped caring which version was more poetic. Lauren still tried to talk to me privately. The first time, she waited until I came by to pick up some personal documents from the office. We had arranged the time in writing. She was supposed to be in the kitchen. I was supposed to go in, get what I needed, and leave. Instead, she stood in the hallway holding 2 mugs of coffee. For a moment, I was thrown back into the old rhythm. Same coffee, same hallway, same woman. A marriage can die and still leave muscle memory behind. "I made yours the way you like it," she said. I looked at the mug. "Don't." Her face tightened. "It's coffee, Robert." "No, it's a door. I'm not opening it." She set the mugs down on the small table by the wall. "Do you think I'm a monster?" I wanted to say yes. I also knew it would make the conversation about that word instead of what she did. "I think you wanted a new life," I said. "And you decided the easiest way to get it was to make me smaller in everybody else's eyes. That's not fair. Lauren, you called me useful until the paperwork was done." Her lips parted, then closed. "I was angry when I wrote that. You were planning when you wrote that." She looked down. For a few seconds, the house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator kick on. Then she asked, "Did you ever even love me?" That question was so unfair I almost laughed. After everything, she still reached for the one place she thought I might bleed on command. I didn't give her the anger she wanted. "I did," I said. "That's why I gave you chances. That's why I ignored things I shouldn't have ignored. That's why I kept trying to make quiet look like peace. But I'm done giving you access to destroy what's left of me." Her eyes filled again. "You're so cold now." "No," I said. "I'm careful now." I walked past her, collected the documents I came for, and left with my coffee untouched on the table. That became the shape of the ending. Not one dramatic slam of a door. Not some fantasy where everyone clapped and Lauren crawled back begging for forgiveness. It was smaller than that and more real. It was me learning not to answer every accusation. It was me letting written records speak when my voice wanted to shake. It was me accepting that the people who believed her too quickly might regret it, but their regret didn't erase what it cost me. It was me sleeping badly in a quiet house, then waking up and making coffee anyway. Some nights, I still thought about the moment in the driveway when Lauren saw the folder. I thought about how her face changed. I thought about the satisfaction that ran through me when Diane asked, "Is this real?" And Lauren had no clean answer. I will not pretend I was above that feeling. Part of me wanted her humiliated because I had been humiliated in private for months. Part of me wanted Adrian to feel stupid standing next to those boxes. Part of me wanted every relative who told me to be civil to understand they had been recruited into a lie. But the bigger part of me knows this. If I had stayed quiet, her story would have become the official version. I would have been the cold husband, the controlling man, the obstacle to her brave new life. Adrian would have been moved in before anyone asked what had really happened. The money trail would have looked like confusion instead of planning. The keypad, the boxes, the family pressure, all of it would have been treated like normal divorce mess instead of what it was. A setup. So no, I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't throw his boxes into the street. I didn't call her names in the driveway, even though I had plenty ready. I brought the folder. And once Lauren's version of the truth was no longer the only one in the room, everything changed. The divorce moved forward. The lawyers handled what needed handling. Diane stopped sending speeches about happiness. Claire apologized once more, and I accepted it without pretending we were close. Adrian stayed gone from the house. Lauren learned that starting a new chapter doesn't mean you get to rip pages out of someone else's book and call it healing. The last time I saw her during that phase, she looked tired. Not destroyed. Not ruined. Just tired in the way people look when their choices finally require maintenance. She asked me if I regretted sending the folder. I thought about lying. It would have been kinder, maybe, or at least cleaner. But I had spent too much of that marriage making things clean for someone who kept making messes. No, I said. I regret needing it. She looked away. I got into my car, the same driveway camera blinking above the garage, the same house behind me, the same folder on the passenger seat. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was waiting for Lauren to decide what my life was allowed to be. She thought I came home to fight for her. I came home to get my life back. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.